to Friday Forum, October the 21st, I believe. Yeah, there you go, got it right. We're having a very bird-oriented program this morning. And I'm hearing yays from more than one direction, so that's good. Before we start, new people here today, people here for the first time? Welcome. Welcome. Where did you come from?
I'm from Vietnam.
You're from Vietnam? Hello. Welcome to Noosa.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, well, actually I used to come from here. Wallace House is my great-grandfather's house.
Okay, so we might actually have to book you in for a presentation about that next year. That sounds interesting.
Ask my cousin Mary, she knows nothing.
Okay. Okay, well, welcome. Good to see you here. As usual, we start with an acknowledgement of country, respect for elders past and present, and a traditional greeting which I was talking to Patrick Nunn about, and we tend to think it means hello. He says it's more like, where are you from? What part of country do you represent? Wanyanullum. I think it's rather a nice greeting as opposed to, what's your name? It's like, who are you? Where are you from? Tell us about your background. Wanyanullum is a nice way to do that. In New Zealand, traditionally Maori tribes, when they met each other, representatives, they could spend up to a day talking to each other and trying to work out what their blood relationship was. Because if they couldn't find one, it usually meant they had to fight. So, Wanyanullum.
Wanyanullum.
How you going?
That sounds different. This, I think most of you have seen it already, but for the visitors, the ethos behind the Friday Environment Forum is that we preserve what we love, we tend to love what we understand, and we understand things by studying them. So we have these forums so that we can learn about our environment, and it's not just our natural environment, sometimes it's our historical environment, and you're going to get some of that today, a combination of both historical environment and natural environment. I think we actually need to set this to music. I think it would be rather a nice little jingle. If you have a phone, please turn off the sound right now. This is a phone. There's a switch on it somewhere which you can, there, it's off. If you haven't done that and the phone rings, I will come down and seize it and hurl it out.
Confiscated.
Confiscation is the least of its fates. Okay, so we're going to hear from Liz and George Diggles today, and we'll introduce them a little bit later. But they'll be talking about Sylvester Diggles, a forebear of theirs, and an early Queensland naturalist, and there's a lot to look forward to there. Calendars are for sale. And there was something about this slide that I was supposed to take note of, Liz. Okay, so the calendars, $10 available at the front desk. And they're great little Christmas present stocking stuffers and things to put in the mail because they don't cost a lot to send by mail.
Coolum and North Shore Coast Key.
It's National Bird Week, and those of you who've been paying attention to this will be interested in the total of birds counted by last night, coming up to 800,000. Last year it was mostly rainbow lorikeets. They were the majority bird counted across the 2 weeks, sorry, across the week. This year so far it's mostly magpies. Make of that what you will. Now we have in the audience Anoop, who has been with us now for almost a year, I think. Anoop is a dedicated photographer of no inconsiderable talent. His specialty is capturing the moment, particularly with drops in the air. And I asked him if he wanted to talk about these pictures. He said no, he'll just let them speak for themselves. But they are fabulous. So for National Bird Week here at Friday Forum, let's just work through these pictures. I gather that this picture was a result of Anoop sitting under a tree for about 2 hours and 20 minutes. While they just sat and looked at each other.
Tell us about that one, Anoop. He waited and waited for that. Pelicans.
They are stunning pictures. I think at some time next year we'll probably get Anoop along to talk about more of his pictures in greater detail. So now we're just getting a little bit of a taster. Now, every week we have 5 minutes or so, sometimes 10, for people to have their say. We have George here. This is not part of the main discussion, but George was out of Barra Sanctuary and he has some pictures he'd like to talk about. So, Liz, if you just introduce George.
Hang on.
And I'll put the pointer down, and then George can take over the microphone.
Okay. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Usually I'm the one checking it on other people, but suddenly I have to have it on myself today. I'd like to introduce my cousin George Diggles. George, like our ancestor Sylvester, George is a keen birder, a fantastic birder. He can stand in one spot and pick out 5 or 6 birds within the first minute or so. So he likes to volunteer and go out to Barra Sanctuary, which, George, can you just tell us exactly how you get to Barra, please?
It's Cunnamulla.
Hold this right up.
Up to Cunnamulla. It's about 10 k's northwest on the bitumen, and then you go west on 6 k's of gravel. It's about a 20-minute drive from Cunnamulla. It's an ideal spot.
Okay, so...
What's your supplies?
So last year George was out there in May. Pete and I went out and spent a week out there bird spotting with him. This year, September, so springtime. So I guess we're going to learn about the differences between the birds in May and the birds in September. So did you want to talk about that slide, George?
Yeah, particularly it's the breeding season, as you can see. That little parvo there, he was trying to dig a hole in that spot of dirt. And I saw him, there were 2 of them actually, probably 50 metres apart, both doing the same thing. 2 different red-browed parvots. And they've had a lot of rain out there. It's been the wettest season for many, many years. There's flies and mozzies everywhere, but the birds are breeding. And I've been there 4 times. This time we've seen brown songlarks, which I've never seen before.
Got them coming up, George.
Pardon?
We have them coming up.
Okay. Yeah, everything was breeding. There were birds everywhere breeding.
Should say it's a Birds Australia property, isn't it? I didn't
Australian
mention that.
Wildlife Conservancy owned the property, and Birds Queensland have volunteers on a monthly from March through to October. We go out and do our month service. Caretaking, and we run the show virtually.
There's accommodation.
Yeah, there's all three levels of accommodation. You can have a cottage with 4 people, or you can have a shearer's quarters with dozens, and you can have camping, unpowered or powered.
So each night at 6, is it? There's bird call.
Yeah, summer or winter, yeah. Depends on the time of year. We'll have a bird call, right? And everyone goes out. We're given these sheets with bird species, and then they try and nominate as many as they see in one place. So I've got the results here.
So
you can have a look at them. There's a map of Barra there.
Some very common ones seen this time round.
The most common ones you see is brown tree creepers. They're all over the place. Every day you'll see them. You'll see apostle birds. There's resident chestnut crowned babblers right around the campsite all the time. Crested bellbirds are always an iconic bird out there. That one there, beautiful call you hear every time you go out there.
I think we're going to get Valda to help us out with some calls here.
George,
Yes.
why is it, do you think, that been the first time you've seen a brown songlark out there? Is it outside of the range?
I think it's because it's September and they've come up. I don't know. I've been there 4 years in a row. May, August, pardon? Yeah, October,
Come
May,
see.
August, September. I haven't seen a brown songlark till this year, but other people might have.
Valda's just playing music in the meantime. So we're looking for the app
Are we going to get
that will play the brown songlark for us, the voice of the brown
Yeah, we can
songlark.
see up to 100 species in some days. With 20 observers, we get over 100.
Put it right up.
Even myself on my own, I got 54 in about 2 hours. Pardon?
In total was about 250.
Oh, it's about 250 birds.
Okay, this.
Yeah, that is the brown songlark. Now, I've never heard that before. Unbelievable. We're used to hearing the rufous songlark out there. There were hundreds of them. Hundreds of rufous songlarks, and they go to witchy woo. Karen was sick of them. To witchy woo, to witchy woo. Can you get the rufous one while you're there?
Trying to, yes.
You listen to this.
It's just constant.
It's constant. They were
Like-
everywhere.
It's like cicadas in a way. It just never stops.
But I've never heard the brown songlark before, and it's just. And the black honey eaters are sort of, they come and go. I've never seen so many black honey eaters as this year. I don't think that's.
We'll get there in a minute.
Should we go on and look at the next birds while we're waiting?
Okay, we can do that. Now these wood swallows, they came one day, there were none, next day there were thousands. They
Of
just
what?
migrated in. White-browed wood swallows, they're just everywhere. And they breed in, they get there one day and they start building the next day. They were instantly wanting to nest. And they were nesting everywhere they can possibly think of.
So, George, when we came to visit you, one of the requirements of the people who are the hosts is that you do a number of the, what do you call them? Hang on.
That's the rufous. Listen to that. That was all over the place. Everywhere you went, you'd hear that. To which you woo. I reckon they're fantastic. I love it. I love it. But the brown songlark was just a little bit different, and you could just, they're just amazing.
Oh, thanks, Vala.
And perhaps you can describe how they fly up.
Oh, well, the brown especially, he'll fly right up in the sky and do that, and then he'll drop down again. But the rufous, he'll sort of go anywhere, singing as he flies, landing, singing on the ground, all over the place.
Okay. And there is a term for that flying up and flying down? You know the term? Somebody asked me this
Do
morning.
you, Val?
And I couldn't answer.
You don't know.
Skylarking, isn't it?
Well, the skylark will do that. The English skylark will just fly until you can't even see it,
Yeah.
and then he'll drop. But these Australian ones aren't quite the same.
And they hover.
They do hover,
And drop.
especially the brown. But the rufous won't do that very much. He seems to just go straight from one
How
tree
many different larks? Two out there, two.
out there, yeah. But when you go down south, you'll get the imported English skylark.
What about
Europe.
South Burnett? What would that one be that hovered?
Well, it could be a brown, or it could be. There are others. These are the only two of Barra that I know of, but there are other songlarks.
Who's running Barra now that it's a sanctuary?
Well, the AWC, Australian Wildlife Conservancy, own it, and we volunteer to run it as managers and caretakers through the winter, like from March through to October, and then they close it to the public, but caretakers go out there for 2-week intervals through summer because it's so hot. Generally they still do birding. They take the list every day of the year that they do a bird list, and that's recorded in the archives for research.
And there's a requirement to survey.
We do, there's fixed survey routes, there's about 9 of them, where we go around and certain spots you stop at certain places with they're all marked on the map, and you spend 10 minutes listening, looking and observing and putting down the numbers you see. And that all goes into a big database as well. So it's all...
Birds Queensland actually organise the roster for them.
Yeah, Birds Queensland organise the roster. And you've got to be lucky now because everyone wants to do it, and we can only go every second year now.
Oh,
But you, George, mention the university students. that
Oh,
come
the
out.
uni students come
Would
out.
you like
yeah.
me to play the
Oh,
Crested
you've
Velvet?
got to hear the Crested Velvet. Really,
If
because
I can
he's
get
classic.
How does this turn on again?
He's
It should
classic.
still be on.
Yeah, the universities go out there and they have research. That's the Crested Velvet. Constant.
But it's always difficult to see them. Yeah, they're lovely. Thanks.
A little clink at the end is the velvet.
Okay.
That's great, yeah. I don't have that technology.
you want that?
Now, what else? Any questions? about
You'll
that?
just have to turn it on again, sorry. No, there isn't another slide.
No, there, not enough slides.
Oh, sorry, George. There-
What else do you want to know? No, I don't.
Does anyone else have a question?
I have a question about songlarks again, George.
Yeah, I don't know all of them.
You might, or someone might know this. Are our songlarks in any way related to the Northern Hemisphere songlarks, or are they completely different?
No, I think they might be related.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But you know Tim Lowe's book about where song began? It all started in one place, and they all radiated out.
They must be deflated somewhat in the Northern Hemisphere since that book.
Yes, they sure are. They thought it all started there.
Okay, Bob.
Yeah, apropos to Rod's introduction to what we do here, there's a certain history of Bowra Station. I believe it was part of the soldier settlements. And can you imagine them poor buggers coming back from the horrors of war and saying, go 800 kilometres west into the, and see if you can make a living on a small block of land. So
At Bowra.
at Bowra, a lot of them got amalgamated into a far larger property. There's a bit of history there. I'd like to know more about. I'll leave it at that.
Well, Bowra Station was started by the McLarens. And they
From
came,
South Australia.
McLaren Vale in South Australia was named after the family, right? And they migrated up in 1896, and that's been in that family ever since until it sold to AWC. They put a bore down in 1905, and that is still running today. It's run every day. 28 psi pressure comes out of that bore, and it's hot, and it's never stopped.
Let's do that last one. Yes.
Just a point of clarification about the ownership of Bowra. It was initially purchased with funds from members of Birds Australia. But Birds Australia was unable financially to undertake the ongoing maintenance of the property and to keep the property in conservation hands.
So AWC,
They sold it to AWC, or they came to the rescue.
They came to the rescue,
Yeah.
and I heard that Peter Garrett put in some of his own money.
I don't know about that, but initially the property was purchased by funds from Birds Australia and I think Birds Queensland, which was their
Well,
cause.
Birds Queensland didn't have enough money to buy it.
No, well, no, yeah.
Okay. That's it.
Okay.
That's all I know.
Thanks, George.
Thank you.
It's
All good.
not remarkable because of the group of people that we have here, but it is notable how much passion and how much interest there is in the population for birds and what birds mean to us. You know, the fact that that little piece of history you were just passing on there about the original ownership. You know, those kind of details, they do illustrate how much people care. Very important. Now we're going to have a short video here as a lead into next week's talk. Rick Humphreys, as you'll know, is from Lock the Gate, and Liz is going to launch this for us so that you can hear it as well as see it.
Thank you. be held to account. Their moral and legal obligations say put it back to a condition that's usable for conservation, usable for some economic use, and certainly no legacies going forward. And that's what this campaign is all about.
Join us to make big money, fix the mess.
So it's going to be a very, very interesting and possibly heartbreaking talk. And I think it's important for us all to attend if we possibly can. Now, Glossy Bob, please step forward. Glossy Bob.
Yes, thanks very much. Just important to let people know that there's a survey coming up Sunday week of there's certain species that the glossy black cockatoo is one of my great interests, and for people who want to participate, there's going to be a workshop at the council chambers between 4 and 5 p.m. On Thursday the 27th, okay? And what they do is they will have an A4 size sheet or a map, and there'll be E39, it'll be Sunshine Beach, 1 kilometre square area, or wherever you choose. If you want to participate, you go there and you'll find out where you may wish to go, and they will provide you with a map, and so they'll be having this get together to let people know how to do it, what's required, and to hand out the information. Now, it's being managed by Tyrone DeCowie. He's new to me, and he's Flying Fox Management Officer. Wow, we're not doing well to have a bloke employed just for that, but Environment Service, Planning and Infrastructure. So there you are, and you can speak to me later about it, and if you want to know any more information. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Bob?
It's in the paper today.
It's in the local paper as well, the Noosa News. So, but that's the important things to know. There's an education day with handouts for mapping and the various.
Bob, I don't think you necessarily have to go to that evening though, do you? Can't you register with, like, ringing up and just registering with him if you know the birds and you know what to do? Can you just register with him? I think you can.
It's a phone number in the paper.
Is up?
If people know the birds and know what they're looking for, then they can probably just ring up or email the...
Yeah, please email me back to register, or with any questions. We'll update everyone soon and detail the finalised. Regards, Tyrone DeCowie, and his title is Flying Fox Manager. So see me later if you need to know. I've got a website, email address, and a telephone number for him here.
Okay, thanks, Bob. That was part of it. My apologies for putting that on earlier. Now, coming up, as we said, fixing big holes in the ground next week, but moving on beyond that into November, fire management in national parks, always a nice controversial subject. Many schools have thought on that. I don't know, Omar Bakra?
Omar Bakash
Yeah.
works for the national parks. He's a ranger.
Okay, so we'll get the ranger perspective. So yeah, that'll be a good one. November the 11th, oil and water. I don't think this is about making cheap mayonnaise.
Yes.
Ocean life. Liz, what's that one about?
Okay, hang on.
Not to worry, we've got plenty of time to find
Ocean
out.
Life is a guy called Richard Coward who brings live specimens. We're hoping that he'll be there on the day.
Ah, okay. So, following on from the nudibranchs, we're going to have more...
We're hoping to have live nudibranchs next year.
Well, that'll be good. Okay, and then our final meeting for the final forum for the year is the Noosa River Echo Queues. I don't know if that's
Which is
full
now
yet.
full.
It's full, okay. So if you didn't sign up, you'll be sitting on the bank twiddling your thumbs. But Brian Stockwell speaking on that could be great. So thank you very much for your attention so far, and we'll hand over now to George and Liz. You all know Liz very well. and her cousin George and Karen, who's come down from Mullaney with them, they're going to handle the next part. And